All right, welcome to Guno Pavilion and Arsenal fans. Let's reset. Liverpool was a nil-nil game. It wasn't devastating. It was a bump in the road in the Premier League. And we returned to the Premier League after what can only be seen as a very successful couple of days for Arsenal. Going to Portsmouth, winning away from home in the FA Cup, going to Chelsea, winning away from home in the Carabao Cup. And these are the weeks that have in past have been difficult for Arsenal to navigate. We go back to even the Arsene Wenger, era, where you've got Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League. At some point, Arsenal, either steps out of one of those competitions or drop points in one of them. But I think this has required the whole length of the squad, the whole squad together. And yeah, they've managed to get through this period. They're halfway there. And now go to Nottingham Forest will be a different kind of test. So we're going to preview the Nottingham Forest versus Arsenal game. It is a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. So I'm recording this very early on Friday morning. And let's get into it. Okay, let's talk numbers, guys. So we're using our Road to 90 framework, and Liverpool was one of those gauntlet games, right? We said we needed to get at least 4 points out of those bucket of games because there are two games in there: Man City away, Liverpool at home. We got one. So that's not ideal. It doesn't break the model, but what it does mean is that we have to go and do a heist. We got to steal points elsewhere, and that brings us to this game, Nottingham Forest away. So this game sits in that manageable bucket. Now, if you remember what we said, we're going to need 23 points out of this bucket, 7 wins and 1 draw. And we had a bit of a free hit in one game, and that will still keep us on track, to get to 90. The maths have got to change now. So 9 games were in there in that. Now, because of the Liverpool game, we need 25. We've got to steal 2 points back from somewhere. And I know, this is not, scientific or anything like that. And it's, football is not played on paper. I get that. But for the sake of conversation, we're gonna have to get this 2 points from somewhere, and we've already played 2 of those 9 games. This is gonna be the third game in that series, and so this one very important, non-negotiable. We've got to win this. So let's put some context into this game. Why would this game be harder than what it looks like? This isn't an easy away day, and for a number of reasons. One, because of the coach, he does like to prove himself, especially against Arsenal. Remember his days at Burnley and Everton, and that frustrating 0-0 draw that we had at Everton when he was there. Um, but Arsenal have handled away games, quite well, this season. There's one thing that we do need to change though in our away games, and that's conceding the first goal. I'm sure, Nottingham Forest will be looking at all of that. And trying to make sure that maybe they can capitalize on a moment to put Arsenal on the back foot. So we got to get control in this game, and we've got to see the job done. We've done against Portsmouth, we've done against Chelsea, and this needs to be a professional performance against Nottingham Forest. So let's talk about Forest properly, right? So Forest obviously has gone a bit of an evolution since Nuno was at the club. Now, in Nuno's style of playing, it was all about the quick transitions, pacey players, counter attack, football, being solid, from set pieces and things like that. Um, Sean Dyche is slightly a bit different. I mean, you saw a little bit about what he did when he went to Liverpool, and I think he's going to be using that exact same model to hopefully try and upset Arsenal. So it's going to be a slow game. He's going to want to break the rhythm down and force mistakes and then punish Arsenal in moments. They don't want the ball; they want the errors. from an Arsenal team. So they're going to sit in a compact shape. They're going to protect that central spaces, and then they're going to, push you wide and make you want to cross, because they've got, defenders that, they would believe would match Arsenal in those aerial duels. And so that's going to be what Forest are going to try and do. It's going to be one of those physical games. Um, I expect, Gibbs White, to be quite important in this game for Forest. They're going to be looking for him, at any point in time. Not quite sure whether Hudson Odoi will start this game. He tends to try and bring him in, as a second half, just depending how things are going, especially in big games like this, because he really wants those numbers in the midfield and have that defensive shape. So, guys, you know what it is already. This is going to be another low block masterclass, right? Because Forest are going to sit deep and going to ask Arsenal, break us down. Break us down. Let's see if you can do that. So that's going to be, something to look out for. I think for me, where this game is going to be won, it's going to be about discipline. Arsenal would dominate the ball. More likely, we're going to, have lots of passes, lots of possession. But there's a quick, key question that we've got to ask here, and that's, do we move this ball quickly enough? Do you avoid those cheap turnovers? Because that's what, we're talking about errors. That's what Nottingham Forest are going to want to do. And do you score first? I think it's so crucial in this game more than any other game, because when it comes to Forest, if you score first, it tends to throw their plans, out of the way, and then they have to chase, and against their home crowd who will really want them to, you know, go out and try and make a statement against Arsenal. um, they really don't have the structure to really go out and chase games, especially from with very, very good teams. So I think Arsenal can't afford to let this drift, because that will play into their hands. You don't want to be going into 0-0 in the 60th minute in this game in the second half, because then it becomes uncomfortable. That's the trap that Forest needs to set. Mikel Arteta has got decisions to make. We've been talking about that in a lot of these previews, especially we love the games being back to back, in different competitions, wondering who to play, who to leave out. I expect this team selection to be very, very similar to what happened in the Chelsea game, because I think the Champions League game in midweek is probably the one that Arsenal would look to rotate players, because this is way too important. Right. And if you kind of consider what's happening in the Premier League race with Man City just having Antoine Semenyo coming to the club, that has just given them an extra boost, I think Man City are going to win that game against Manchester United. I know it's a derby. I know that it's an opportunity for us to sneak points. I expect Man City to win that game. I think, Semenyo is a game changer. He's an X factor. I think he brings something to Man City that they don't really have. So someone with the trickery of Doku, but also actually have an end product. And that's the one thing that Doku doesn't really have. He doesn't have an end product in terms of scoring goals, but Semenyo is all about those goals, all about those goals. So just going back to Arsenal, we just need to do what we need to do our job, right? We need to do what we require to do. So Raya in goal for me. Back four is going to be Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White. Very similar to what we had against Chelsea. I don't expect that to change. And then the midfield, I don't think this is a game for Eze. I don't think it's that kind of game. I think you want control. You want someone who would actually detect the tempo. And this is a game that Odegaard is made for. So Odegaard is going to have to come into this game, and you have Zubimendi and have Rice, his other partners in the midfield. I expect Trossard, to start this game. Again, especially away from home. Sometimes I have seen Martinelli start the away games, but I think Trossard will probably be the one to go. This is a game that Moni Madueke could actually work, but I expect Saka to start this game. It was a little bit quiet against Chelsea, but he's traditionally done well against Nottingham Forest. So I would expect Mikel Arteta to go with that. So it's going to be direct, efficient, purposeful. Champions League game, I think we make the adjustment. And you want this game decided by 60 minutes. I think you really do. So for me, I think that the difference in this Arsenal team, as what we've seen, is that they don't panic anymore. There is this almost still, with Arsenal when it comes to these games. There is a resilience. It's almost like, we just need to breathe. We need to focus and know that we can make changes, on the pitch. We can affect the games as much as possible. So I think they manage games a little bit better. I know that Chelsea's game seemed like, we gave away 2 goals, which we did. But I think ultimately, other Arsenal sides, that game could have ended 3-3 because of the momentum, the change of energy. But Arsenal still won that game 3-2. And that's it. We were winning games. The performance doesn't have to be brilliant. We just have to win those games. And Forest is going to make this awkward because they always do. But Arsenal understand when to accelerate. They understand when to slow it down. They understand when to kill the game. And I think this is maturity that might just take Arsenal to where they need to go. So, guys, listen, this one's not going to be pretty. It won't be flowing football, but I think it will be professional. So I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest 0 and Arsenal 2, a 2-0 victory to Arsenal. I think we control, we've got late authority, and then we take 3 points back. And hopefully that puts us back on track, and then we move on. But guys, let me know what you think, about this preview game. Put your comments in this, your predictions in the comment section. Like and subscribe. And I also want to thank, all the people who keep watching. This is nothing without you guys. You guys are the ones that, keep this channel going. So please, share with as many, Arsenal fans as possible. Let's just keep building the community. And listen, win, lose, or draw, you know how we do. We come back and then we talk about, 3 things that Arsenal did well, 3 things that we could actually improve. And then we start to look ahead for the Champions League game in midweek. But whatever you do, guys, take care of yourself. Let's enjoy this Arsenal game against Forest. Come on, you Gunners.